So here we go. First Lucid Living podcast. We got our guest today. His name is Jacob. He's a co-student of mine. We're in a dance team together. He's studying engineering right now. He goes to ASU.
Yep.
And he loves to dance. And I just found out right now that he likes to freestyle. So
yeah,
that was pretty interesting. So Jacob, we're gonna go start talking about spirituality, and this kind of something. I noticed you're a pretty, outgoing dude, pretty chill dude. We've talked a little bit about spirituality, and I wanted to get to know more so your perspective. We don't really talk too much during class,
right.
So I just want to set that time aside, see where we go. So first question is, what's your relationship with spirituality?
My relationship with spirituality, it's big. I have a very big relationship with spirituality. It guides most of my life, positive affirmation, belief in God, I constantly remind myself every day. I wake up, I'm always negative at the beginning of the day. It's like, but no, throughout the day, I'm like, okay, listen, we got this. We're grateful for this.
Okay.
Like, I have my mom, I have my dad, I have my brother, it's always there.
Yeah.
Like, it's always a reminder. Like,
when did you start realizing that was important?
Probably this year.
This year?
Yeah, this year. Recently.
Okay.
When life started to hit me.
For real?
Yeah.
Okay, that's usually when it happens.
Just you start to realize things about life that are unique.
Yeah.
And that just kind of hit me this year.
Okay, and what is I'm curious. So how what was that point where you were like, okay, I really need to, I need to ask the deeper questions.
Well, so
if you care to go into it,
let's do it. I mean, yeah, always. Yeah, so I started having a lot of medical problems with diet and eating, so I couldn't eat a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I stopped eating at 2 usually, because when I sleep, I'll have a lot of acid reflux that'll come up and bother my sleep. Okay. So that usually is a pretty big part of my life. So diet is very important. So I go to doctors and they always tell me no, this isn't working out for you. So it's a battle right now.
Yeah.
And so that kind of made me realize that wow, life is pretty unique. So you're not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed anything. So yeah, that kind of dawned upon me, and I started realizing, hey, I got to be positive, because I was so negative for a long time. I was like, why is this happening to me? This is unfair. I feel like other people are so blessed, but then I realized wow, I didn't count my blessings.
Yeah.
So I just try to count my blessings, and positive attitude is, if anything, it makes you feel healthier.
Right.
You're gonna be negative, you're gonna feel bad.
Yeah.
So
thinking positive.
Yeah.
And how big has it, so with whatever you're going through, how have you seen it help you? What's been one of the biggest things that you're always okay, for sure spirituality has me on this, or these my affirmations have me on this. What is that for you?
The biggest help? Yeah, I'd say just being grateful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, taking responsibility for what's happening in your life. Just saying thank you. Realistically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that responsibility part. So, how has that been in terms of taking responsibility for your life? How deep does that go? What does that mean?
Taking responsibility for your life. We're still finding that out.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a big question. I guess responsibility for your own happiness and emotions, and your responsibility of being fair to others. Your responsibility to bring joy to your own life. regardless of the circumstances. I'd say
Yeah.
it's very important. You know, that's your responsibility. You can't, you know, let that get to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was so I gotta say that like you do seem like a pretty like happy person. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I like that's something that it reminds me of me when I was in college because that's
Right.
kind of how I was. Like I was always the dude that kind of be putting himself out there and trying to try to have a smile, crack some jokes, make light of the situation.
Right. Right.
And like I don't that doesn't come easily.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like
No.
there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes
Right.
for you to be able to present that smile and that happiness to people.
Right. Right.
So I mean, like just for me, like I want to say, like that's noticeable, and that's something that, like internally, like I see that and I connect with that because I understand, like I feel like we have similar paths. I was an engineer,
Okay.
and going through ASU, you got to put into work, and then you got the work done, and then there's other things that happen in your life, like you got school done, but then you got everything else that comes with life, and I think that part of taking responsibility for yourself, at least I can say from my perspective, something that I've learned, kind of expanding on what you said is like responsibility brings you power. Like
Right.
responsibility brings you competence and ability. So the way I feel like
Right.
is, when you're going through your day, maybe you get in a car crash, right? Not horrible. Maybe someone just bumps into you, right? And you can blame the world for what happened, or something I was listening to a while ago was like, well, you were still driving the car. You still decided to leave the house at that specific time, and in some way you still played a big part in what happened. But that, but a lot of people go through their lives and saying, well, I was just a victim of circumstance, and that's valid. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you sit down and you say, well, you know what? When almost like you overcompensate, or you say, actually, it's 100% my fault. Like, even though this person bumped into me, I was still there. I was still the one that didn't have the awareness, or I wasn't,
I mean, it's not that I wouldn't say it's your fault. I wouldn't say that it's your fault that happened. Life happens. I would say it's your fault for after the fact you're feeling down about it. That's your fault.
Okay.
You got to take responsibility for that.
Okay.
You know what happened.
I like that.
Life happens.
Yeah.
You just you're like okay, and you move on.
So it's like you take responsibility for your reaction.
For reacting, yeah.
We'll led up to that.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I think so. I wouldn't.
I like that.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess another thing would be, the only reason I say that I won't like is because I guess in my circumstances, I like to always go back and think about how I played into the part, and then because when I go back, even though it wasn't intentional or wasn't even conscious and yes, most likely it was circumstantial. Even when I do go back, I still feel like I'm still able to bring more awareness into the moment next time I go out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the I guess the power or the power that responsibility brings, which is like owning up to what happened and then kind of taking that in for sure, like really like integrating that, like carrying that inside, so that next time you just move out or you just go next circumstance you came into it with much more with a greater sense of awareness.
Yeah, you got wiser.
Yeah. And
definitely
for sure. So I guess what has like one of the things I'm curious about is like your school and actually like dance, you know what I mean? So dance, like you do, you got certain things going on that you do, right? Like I think it's dope that you do, like you're like doing a little freestyle,
right.
you go dancing.
Yeah.
Like I see like the work ethic, I see the commitment to being better.
Right.
So where does that come from, and how has spirituality related to that? How is spirituality related to that
Um, well, I mean, that came from like the work ethic.
for you? Yeah.
Um, I translated over from, I'd say, my dad. You know, he taught me wrestling. He made me a wrestler from a young age. So wrestling's hard. It's day in, day out, hard work. You know, victory's never guaranteed. Even though you're the hardest working in the room, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. I think I got a lot of my values from wrestling for sure. I think
Okay.
wrestling's really what made me. You know, I hated wrestling actually. Like, it's not that I hated it. I liked it, but it wasn't like my love. You know, but
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with it because you know I was in my head. I'm realizing like no one else can do this. No one else is realizing how valuable this is. Like this kind of it instills values in you that you would never learn or you can't learn in other situations,
Mm-hmm.
like dance, I guess. I don't know,
Right.
maybe not. For me, I wouldn't have learned that in dance, you know. You have
Yeah.
to push through the grind, you know. That's kind of where I got that from. To definitely helped me in engineering. I would have not been able to um, um, kept going in engineering.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
have quit, bro. I would have been like, nah, I'm done. That's just
Yeah.
too hard. If I couldn't, you know, engineering's hard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've seen.
So, but yeah, definitely wrestling. Wrestling's kind of brought me through that. And, you know, my dad, he's always like, bro, you know, put in the work,
Right.
get up, do good. Definitely, he's very positive though.
Yeah.
He's very proud of me. I
That's
wouldn't have
good.
done it without my parents, you know,
Yeah.
definitely like strong support system for sure. Definitely grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky.
Yeah.
I don't think most people in this world kind of were set up like I was, you know.
Do you have siblings or no?
No, yeah, I have one sibling.
Yeah, one sibling.
One brother. One
Okay.
brother. Yeah. He's smart
Yeah.
as hell.
Yeah. Is he younger than you?
He's 16.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 16. He's a smart kid.
And you said that wrestling wasn't really like the thing. What was the thing for you? Do you know? Like
What?
you know, like what was the thing that you were like, this
That I love?
that's me, you know?
Salsa. I love
Salsa, for real?
Yeah, for real.
But that was that new or has it always been like in your head?
No, it was new.
It's
I
new.
just ran into
Okay.
it. I never found it, and then now
Okay.
it's like, you know, I
Okay.
love this thing.
So what is it that so for people that are out like looking, because you know I get this question a lot, right? I hear people asking me like, how do you decide, how do you find that thing that is for you?
How do I decide? For me, I just ran into it.
Yeah.
Some girl asked me, she was like, "Hey, you want to go dancing?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I kept coming back, and I was like, "Man, I really like this. You know,
Yeah.
I really like it."
Yeah.
And I just kept doing it. I think, yeah, I never really had anything before that I really liked, or loved as much as salsa. It's never really like clicked until now. You know.
That's good. When did you just started like literally like
In January.
Okay.
Yeah, January.
That's good. And do you feel like what's the, because I have a big like, I feel like I've learned a lot through salsa.
Right.
Kind of like, you know, philosophically or spiritually.
How come?
So the way I think of it is like you're in a relationship with life, and so dance is a relationship because you're in a relationship with the song, you're in a relationship with the partner, and you're in a relationship with your body, with your mind. Like everything has to be in harmony, right?
Right, that's true.
Yeah. And so I think I learned a lot because I, you know, in David's class, you know,
Yeah, David.
yeah,
David.
So like, he taught this thing of like push and pull. Like you match your energy, you match your partner's energy.
Right.
He would also talk about like sinking into the ground and really dancing from this like more grounded, like way of being.
Right.
And when like for that, like with that, it's almost like, for example, with me, I'm a very like light dancer, very it's kind of hard for me to be very rough, you know what I mean, like hard pulls and
Like yeah, rough.
yeah, okay. People always tell me they have a soft lead, basically.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's nice.
Yeah, and but one thing that I realized is that a lot of people that the receptivity, you know, the receptivity opens you up to a greater like dance, a greater experience. So if my partner is much more receptive towards like my way of dance, for example, like instead of being in their own head,
You can have a nicer dance.
you'll have a nicer dance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, there's
Yeah.
some people like you have to definitely like try it out, because there's some people you dance with, and like they don't. You have to lead harder, even though you're a soft like lead.
Yeah.
But like if you have someone who kind of knows the dance more, you don't have to be as like aggressive to
Right.
lead, right? I've noticed that. Yeah, sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget to evaluate that before the dance, so then the dance isn't as as nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely have to find that out before you dance.
Yeah. Yeah. But like the thing that I was trying to like that I would relate that to was like my ability to like approaching people, for example, like connecting with people at a deeper level.
Okay.
Because dance is kind of like the physical embodiment of like an emotional or even mental connection.
Right.
So in dance, it's like a little microcosm, like a little smaller space where smaller example of a greater it's an analogy. Okay, it's an analogy of like when you're a good dancer, the best dancers become alive when they stop thinking.
Right.
And so when you're overthinking, you're just like making mistakes.
Right.
And one of the things that I really thought about was because I would get nervous. I think so. I was dancing. I started dancing mostly because two reasons. I wanted to like meet girls, right? And then I also wanted to be a good dancer because I loved hip hop and I love all that stuff. And one of the things that I realized was that people, when it came to connecting, the essential component was the partner's receptivity. The partner's openness to you rather than being in their heads and really thinking about things too much. Because when you eliminate the mind, everything just flows.
Right.
Yeah. So then you start looking into relationships, for example.
Okay.
And you eliminate the mind, and you kind of like follow like what your kind of like what your gut or like what your heart is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning in terms of expression, you know what I mean? Like I want to express myself fully in this moment. And if the person is also in that same channel, then you establish a great connection.
And you don't have to think about that.
Yeah.
I guess with a relationship with a person.
Yeah.
If you're thinking all the time, then you just gotta like not think so much.
Because then you're like you got that rough.
You complicate it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're that rough lead, or you're that you get that miscommunication in like dance, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I mean, spiritually, that's how I felt. That's like one of the things where I could like sit down and like really and 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 like understand the feeling that comes from that connection in dance, and then find that feeling somewhere else. I don't know if you know what I mean, like that. There's a feeling that you get when you're in connection and you're basically flow.
A flow state.
Yeah, it's kind of like the flow. It is the flow state what I'm talking about, but that feeling of like being fully yourself.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of something that
in a connection with a person or an activity
or anything. Everything. So
okay, more of like a universal.
Well, the reason is because dance teaches you that. Like if you're able to achieve that in dance,
right,
it means that you can achieve it somewhere else.
Right.
So I don't know. What do you like? Does that sound like something?
Yeah, no, that's definitely. That's definitely a thing. Flow state. Yeah, the flow state. Yeah, definitely had a flow state in dance. Probably in rap too. Flow state in rap. You just get into it, and it usually works best when you're under pressure in life.
Right.
Like when you're just pushed to the limit, and everything's exhausted. You feel like giving up, and then this artistic escape, like you really get into the flow state. Mm-hmm. I dance better when I'm under pressure at school, or like I just have more meaningful connections with people when I'm tired, mm-hmm. and I'm working hard all day, and it's like for me the flow state definitely like comes out when I'm just like I'm on the the grind, I guess, like working all the time, being pushed. You get a little more appreciation for life.
Right.
I think.
So okay, I like that because
Yeah.
then what is the relationship between finding joy and also connecting that with like being like, pushed? Like for you, it could like do you feel like you're more of a joyful person when you're putting yourself more at risk? Or where you're like putting your like when
Yeah.
you're more stressed out or but like consciously stressed out, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I gotta work and I gotta
Right.
move and I want to live. Like,
Right.
so
Right.
what do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'll definitely feel a bigger appreciation for life if I'm working harder
Hmm.
or I'm always pushing myself to the limit. Definitely, you appreciate the little moments. Like
Yeah.
during summer vacation, I was, just sitting around.
Yeah.
You don't really you don't really do anything. You don't have that like. I don't know. If you feel more alive when you're always working, you always got to get up and you always got to go. It's just kind of nice to have that artistic escape, I guess.
Yeah.
You enjoy a lot of little parts of life. Like when you're working all day and or studying or whatever you're doing, you have better laughs like with your
Mhm.
schoolmates or whoever it is in your life. You just kind of like connect more.
Okay.
But I think everyone, I guess, works hard and
But
everyone does that.
why do you think that happens though? Why is it that you know
Why you enjoy it more when you're
when
when you're
pressured?
stressed, under
Yeah.
pressure? I have no clue. I have no clue, but that's just
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah.
That's just how it works. So,
Yeah. I think
um,
if you had to like think about it, what do you think you'd say?
about
If you had to
that,
like make a conclusion, you know
I
what
had
I
to
mean?
make a conclusion.
Or like at least
Well,
like
I mean, for everything, there's like a balance to life, right?
Mhm.
Like you have lower lows, you're gonna appreciate your highs,
Mhm.
right? Like you need the balance. Like everything has a balance. Like in order to, feel really happy, you have to know what it is to feel really sad, or
Okay.
like I think it's like the yin and yang, I guess. Like
I like
you
that.
need both of them,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't have one. You can't just be happy all the time. Then you wouldn't
Right,
be.
right.
Then you wouldn't know what it is to be happy if you weren't sad.
Okay.
So like,
That's cool.
I guess so.
Yeah, where'd you get what like do you listen to philosophy or dive into it a little bit? Like do you have any philosophers
Yeah.
that you listen to?
Actually, no, not
No?
really.
Not really?
No.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool
I
that
just kind of.
you just like kinda caught that.
I did take a religions 101 class,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Buddhism and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So they talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, because that's an interesting thing where um the thing there, something I guess that I realized or um is the fact that the like you said the yin and the yang.
What? What'd you say?
The yin and yang.
Oh,
you
the
know,
yin and yang.
Yeah, I think that right there is really the whole thing about life where there is always that positive and always that negative, and um, the pressure. I think the pressure is like the realization of like the extreme because like the extreme would be I'm really stressed out, right?
Right.
But it's kind of crazy because then if you were to flip it, it might be I'm just working really hard. I guess a more clear example would be I remember I was reading this book, and this chick was talking about how when you're nervous, the reaction that you have in your body is the exact same, just as if you were to be excited. So
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
So
your chemical reaction.
your chemical reaction, like like your sweat levels and your heart rate and everything. It's as if you were excited. So the body does not know the difference between being nervous or being excited, but you labeled it.
So
You're the one that labeled it.
Right. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
So you
So
can like,
mentally,
yeah,
like literally, well, it's because it's a label.
decide. I heard, yeah, there's a study at Harvard that they did. They had two groups of people and they did like a PowerPoint with them. And one of the PowerPoints that they gave them was how stress actually reduced your health, gave you less sleep, you got less sleep, your immune system dropped, and then the other group, they said that stress was good for you, heightened your awareness, You're always on your toes. Your reflexes were faster. You needed less food. And they just kind of they let both those people kind of go do their thing, live in their stressful life. They picked people who were always stressed.
Yeah.
And then they kind of got results back, and those results coincided with the PowerPoint slides.
Right.
So like the results that stress is good for you, people answered those questions, and the people who got the results for stress is bad also answered the questions accordingly.
Right.
Right. So it's pretty cool that what you can control.
Right.
Mentally, it becomes physical.
Yeah.
It really becomes physical.
It does.
It really becomes physical.
Yeah, it's like that's I think something that your body is kind of like that container. Your body is a container.
Right.
But whatever is in the container is really up to you.
Right. Exactly. You pick.
Yeah.
You pick what's inside. Like on social media, like I notice like I'll be going through social media and I'll get like a feed of like how you should be living or how you should be acting, and then you kind of realize you're like, oh shit, like I'm kind of becoming what my social media feed is scrolling through. You kind of start thinking those ways, and it's bad for you.
Oh, you're talking about like what social, like TikTok?
Like just Instagram.
Just in general?
I just use Instagram.
Okay.
I shouldn't though.
Can you give me like an example or something?
Like an example. I don't know. I've been having like a lot of Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
It's like
yeah.
You're like, ooh, you start thinking about those things.
That's right.
And it just fucks with your mind, because then you just like, there's so many opinions out there that you're taking in.
Yeah.
And it's like you're eating them, you're consuming them. Like you have to watch out what you consume.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful, because like people can put bullshit out there and you're taking it in and you start to believe it.
Right.
Like it's not that you want to, but you do.
Yeah, I think.
So you gotta be very careful with what you
consume.
Put into your body, and the books, the food, the people
everything.
You're around.
Yeah, everything.
People. Yeah.
I think something that the way I interpret it, and this kind of like through my own spiritual journey, I've just felt like, so your imagination is real in the sense that you live out what you think. You know what I mean? Like you feel it in your body.
Right.
Like your body does not know the difference between what is mental or what is physical. For example, if I'm stressed out because of some situation that's about to happen,
right,
my body's gonna be the same as if the situation were happening right there and I was stressed out. So,
right.
So the idea, for example, like I don't watch horror movies.
Yeah, not me either.
Like I don't watch horror movies. I don't like rides, like scary, like the big rides, like roller coaster rides. Well, that's my like preference. Like I don't like spiking my like adrenaline if I don't need to. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, yeah.
I mean, I like the. I was watching the It movie.
Yeah.
And I left halfway through to watch The Lion King.
I
was like, I'm done. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, but I guess the reason I said it is because that's how that's when I realized like I really gotta stop consuming so unconsciously.
Right.
Like consuming without any intention.
Right.
So safeguarding my because for example, I mean you said I really can't be on. I shouldn't be on Instagram.
Right, you shouldn't. Yeah.
But I mean, I also say like it just depends, because then is social media the who's at fault? Is it social media or is it you?
Well, I mean, you can always discipline yourself in it,
right,
but realistically, you don't.
You don't.
You know?
You don't think you can?
I don't. I mean, I don't.
Okay. I feel like you can though.
I mean, you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like an app for it.
Well, I'm saying more so like.
Okay,
for example, like. The way I think I really do so like I introspect on the thoughts that come through my head. So if like I'm watching something from Andrew Tate, for example, I really think about it and I live my life. I really in my head live out my life as if that were true. Right. Right. And if I don't like the way that feels, then I immediately discard it. But that's the thing that like, so next time when I hear Andrew Tate, now I'm more like, okay, like, I already know where I'm at when it stands to this.
Right.
So it doesn't enter my mind as much as it would have if I had not experienced it already. It's kind of like that thing where, because a thought is an experience.
Right.
You know, a thought it's a reality within itself. So when you live out that reality, now you fully went through it instead of it staying like in your head as noise.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, the way when I think about social media, like I've seen some, like I was completely against TikTok for a while, and now I'm on it because I want to use it for YouTube or whatever to grow my stuff. But I remember seeing something and it was just really stupid, you know, like just some dumb stuff, and I was thinking about it, and like I watched it and I really sat with the feeling, like I sat with the feeling of like what I felt, and then like
you were consciously aware
of
what you're watching.
That just entered my body.
And
like
you just
that
waited.
feeling. Yeah, like I was literally like thinking about it. I was like, oh crap, this sucks. And like the next.
What was it?
It was just like some like girl eating like some testicles, like, but they weren't human. They were like animal testicles or something. Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. Well, it was like Casey was watching it, and I was just there, and I was like, what is this? What are you watching? And the next day she was just like, well, like, you know, we really just saw that. No, right there she said that, and I was like, yeah, we did. And I was kind of over it, but she kind of mentioned it the next day, and like I was kind of already like through that. So I think the thing that I really like trying to like think say is that there's a lot of noise in the social media space.
Yeah. And
when you sit with the noise and understand it as noise, it doesn't carry as much weight than if you didn't sit with it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, you have to be conscious. You have to. Yeah. You have to like think about it. And I don't think, you know, I don't think you do that as much as you should. You know, sometimes you just scroll and it's just like just bullshit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, bullshit. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Most. I mean, there's some cool things. There are some good stuff. Like, so, like I try to control my social media feed, so I'll like a lot of, you know, stuff that I like that I only want. Like I'll only want like salsa videos, so I'll go through and like them and kind of have that on the page. Mm-hmm. But like then sometimes I watch like stupid videos and then funny videos and like it's like what am I doing, you know? Yeah. So I guess the solution is just, for me, I think is just getting off of it. You think so? Yeah, personally. I mean, I just don't think like I don't think there's a way around, you know. Yeah, I mean, I think always reminding yourself. Yeah. For social media, at least. But I guess that goes with, like, life, you know, because, like, you always have to, the people that you meet, you know, the ideas that others bring to the table, you know, I guess you always have to be on edge and always, like, picking and always choosing what's the best kind of philosophies and ideas to come in, you know. You always have to be, you know. Yeah, like, filtering. Attentive, you know, you always have to, like, watch out. But, like, at the same time, it's, like, you're just mindlessly doing it. And you just it's just a habit. And then the habit just takes you away. Takes it. You know? Yeah, it really kills you. It's easier to do that with people, right? Yeah. Like, you can just walk away or just ignore what they're saying, or, like, you don't have to see them all the time. Yeah. But the phone, you're all the time. Like, all the time. Yeah. Like, all the time. Like, people have, like, an average of, like, 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. I can't do that. I can't. 3 hours a day. No, 3 hours a day. It's insane. Like, I know. I've seen some people's messages. Yeah. Yeah, like, it's, you know, like, you could be... That's your life right there. That's like... That's a third of your life if you do 3 hours a day is like a workout a day, like a practice. Like, you could be working a craft. You could, like... go visit nature. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Spend some time with your family. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I feel like, well, I'm curious. So you mentioned that at Tate. What's one of the things that you're kind of like struggling with? You know, like Andrew Tate. Yeah, like what was one of the things that, you know, what I don't know, a Tate take that you were like that you were like I don't know, man. This is interesting. I don't really know where I stand on this one. Cause
I don't know. I mean, he does have a lot of like masculine ideas that I think should be I don't know that are kind of like nice to have. Like he has the confidence, right? I don't know if he has the I don't know. He's what he's like a kickboxer or something.
Yeah.
He's probably got the competence too.
Yeah.
He's confident and competent. So there's that level of respect for a kickboxer. That's a warrior. Like right there. Like that's discipline. There's so much that goes into kickboxing that builds you mentally. So that's kind of like the part where I respect. But I don't know. I haven't really listened to a lot of what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I just know those little things. Kind of like that. That's why sometimes when he says some stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Or the mentality of he does have a lot of positive mentality. I would say. But then again, I haven't heard all the drama that comes with him, so
yeah. I mean,
I don't really get into that.
It's kind of wild, yeah. I was just curious because one of my friends, he would always talk about Tate and a lot of his takes and stuff, and so I was just curious to know what was one you were thinking about or something.
Yeah.
Because I think so. Here's something, like these guys, for example, like the red pill. Like I followed red pill for a while. I don't know. Do you know what red pill is?
No, I don't.
Okay, so red pill is kind of what Andrew Tate is kind of a part of. Not really, but red pill is kind of like red pill, blue pill, taking it in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So they took that from that movie, that idea, and then they gave the red pill to men. So the idea that I think hypergamy. Hypergamy meaning that women kind of like seek status. They want to like marry a guy with status, and the idea that that like a guy. So it's just like a status thing, basically. So if your girl cheated on you, it's most likely because she cheated on you with like a higher status guy.
Right.
So that's kind of like the way that's the red pill, because then doing that is kind of like the very straightforward way of seeing seeing a woman, for example.
Right. You should become higher status.
You should become higher status if you want to get more girls, but it was more so. It's also like this idea that there is like no love. People only get together because it's kind of my interpretation. I don't know if I'm 100% there, but the way I interpreted it was, people don't get together for love. They get together because a guy wants an attractive woman and the woman wants a high status male.
Right.
And that's kind of how if you kind of listen to Andrew Tate, it's kind of
that's what he talks.
There's a lot of underlying. Well, there's a lot he talks about really he talks a lot about being higher status. Like a lot of times you gotta be making money, working hard, and that's a good message, I feel like.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, what those kind of look at the reality. Is that the reality?
No. For me, I don't think so.
No, I don't think it's reality.
That's the reality.
Most people get married. No, I mean, it can be your reality if you choose.
Yeah, if you choose to make it your reality.
But the reality is, most people get married. Most people have kids. Most people like to live happy lives with people they trust and are loyal to them. That the status doesn't, that's not as big as you think, right? Mm-hmm. That's just loud noise coming from, whatever he's saying. That. You look at the reality of it. Most people have loving parents. Most people have relationships, and they they're okay with the people. They get in a relationship because they like the person. Yeah. Not because they're higher status. That's not how I choose my friends.
Right. Well,
but I don't think that's the reality.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a thing where they were saying it more so it's ingrained in psychology. So.
Oh really? I
mean, it's kind of this thing reason
biologically
kind of they would go into biology and it had a lot to do with more so the biological side.
I mean, I think that could be very superficially superficially sometimes I think people are higher status. If someone's more good looking, I'll be like, oh shit, superficially for the first 13 seconds that you walk into a room and you see a person.
Goes away after though.
And then it goes away, which is because it's not the reality. It's completely like I guess biological.
Yeah, I think there's something that people so yeah, I really like to go into this because there's something that people really overlook a lot of times because there's it's one thing getting the girl and it's another thing staying with the girl.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's one thing to begin a relationship, it's another one to craft a great relationship.
yeah,
And
100%.
that the difference in the conversation in that is just huge, I think. So um I think that's something that a lot of people need to talk about. Um, and I don't know, something that I see a lot on social media, so that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Personally, no, personally, yeah, yeah. I had a crafting relationship. Yeah, I've never been in like a meaningful relationship. I guess
Yeah.
something that I've crafted with a person
Yeah.
and worked towards. I have that with friends.
Right.
You
And
definitely.
that's just I think that's meaningful too, though.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you could translate that over. With my friends, if I do something wrong, I'll apologize, or you try not to make too many mistakes or try not to make fun of them too much.
Yeah.
Right? You try to be kind to them. You have to work for that. You can't just have that relationship. And I think that translates over into a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's in that
Right.
in that sense, yeah.
Like with your parents too. Like sometimes I'll like mess up. I'll try to make it right.
Yeah.
With that person, because you're not perfect.
Right.
Um, yeah. What about you? What do you think? You think you have to work for it?
Well, my experience has been that yeah, it's something that you can't really just say. It's like done. You can't really say because something that I understand is that there's a lot of stories. People get married and then they kind of just like expect like this relationship to be good. We're done. Like it's kind of like okay, she's already my wife. Um, I don't have to like
No,
win
you
her
gotta work
over.
on it.
Don't have to. Yeah.
You gotta work on it.
Yeah, you do. You do.
You
Yeah.
gotta work on it.
And every day, like
Yeah.
every day, it's
Well, even more so because you gotta see him every day.
Yeah. I mean,
You're like,
yeah. You can't just like not
I
choose
said some shit yesterday.
to
I gotta
clock out.
apologize.
Yeah.
You can't clock out. No.
You can't, dude. And I think that says a lot, though. Because I think it goes back to like that feeling of responsibility and commitment. So I guess that's one. Okay, that's like let's make that like our the last question.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
Cause I'm really curious about this. You got you learned like through wrestling about the work ethic, and you learned through dance about passion. But how do you feel like you know commitment? So what does like commitment um bring you to? Like, what does commitment bring to you in terms of a benefit? Because the reason I say this is because there's a lot of people um in our basically kind of in our age group, also just in general, that live very afraid of commitment. Not just in a relationship, but also like commitment to like a career, commitment to I don't know, a job, commitment to a friend or a family. Like how do you see that? Like how do you see commitment?
Commitment. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like you always have to. I mean, for commitment to work, you always have to like reevaluate your situation in life. That is like commitment. Spiritually, at least, for me, has definitely been a struggle. Like, yeah, I'm in civil engineering, but am I committed to it? Like, I'm just kind of there. Um, Commitment. Yeah, I mean, it's important. You need to have, every day the rent is due, right? Like, every day you got to get up and you got to, like, all right, I commit to civil engineering because it's going to bring me this in the future. It's going to give me stability. It's going to allow me to feed my children. It's going to allow me to have a house.
Yeah.
Every day you commit. I mean, you have to convince the fuck out of yourself, and just like you just got to convince yourself. Yeah, I commit. I mean, commitment brings a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not easy, and sometimes you're wrong, right? Sometimes you can commit for long periods of time, and you made the wrong decision, but you don't know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, sometimes you're wrong when you commit to something. That's
Yeah.
okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've been wrong with a lot of things. You know. Definitely committed towards. I mean, even wrestling, I committed 100% every day. I don't know. I never placed at state, even though I committed. That didn't happen. And I had to like back injuries for it, you
Right.
know, which was like something that I didn't want, right? But I still, and I made the mistake. It was a mistake, but I still committed to it, and I learned a valuable lesson. You know, commitments, it's hard, but it's important. Um, Commitment to people. Yeah, you commit to people. I
Yeah.
think commitment to people is very important. You know, those relationships are important because that's, you know, that's your life, right?
Yeah.
Like you're building that relationship with them because they're a part of your life.
Right.
You commit time for them. You go out and spend time with them. Um,
How do you define commitment, like in your world?
Commitment.
Yeah. So what would you say that means to you?
Mm, I'd say uh, I'd say commitment is something you do despite what you feel.
Okay.
You could feel like not loving this thing at this specific moment, but you still commit to it
Okay.
because you've made the promise to yourself. Like no matter what kind of day it is or what circumstances you're under, you choose it because you believe that in the future it might be right, even though sometimes it won't be.
Yeah.
You know, it's just complete, just like faith, I guess.
Is
You
there
know,
like so? What's the way to get you? What gets you through it then?
what
Is
gets you
it
through it?
because it like the idea that I'm gonna commit to this, and when you're
This
going down,
thing.
is it because you said convincing yourself and stuff? But
I mean,
um,
committing. Like, what gets you through it to get to the end goal?
yeah, I
What gets you
mean,
through it? What
yeah.
does get you through it?
What are you seeking, or what is it? What's the reward?
It's not the reward. It's commitment. It's what you learn every day. You know,
Yeah.
you learn that you can keep going no matter how you feel at the beginning of the day. The
Mm-hmm.
day starts, and you just do it. You
Mm-hmm.
commit to it, no matter how like shitty you feel or like I don't want to do this shit no more. Like
Yeah.
fuck it, but you just do it.
Yeah.
I guess because like at the end of the day, you know that it's gonna bring you something greater in life
Mm-hmm.
than what you already have.
Right.
And you throw feelings out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just choose it because you think it's gonna bring you something greater.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't, you still learned a lot. You learned that you can grow and you can improve, and like there's a lot of things in life that um, can be learned through commitment. I think.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think so too.
I think it's very important to commit.
Yeah.
You probably have better relationships when you commit. You know,
You do.
you
You definitely
learn.
do.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
I mean, you commit to a person or a group of people. I mean, even though like sometimes you don't really like them all the time.
What do you have to say to the people who are like afraid
of
to commit?
to commit.
Like, just take that risk, put themselves out there and be like, yo, like,
I'd say
I'm gonna do
this.
this.
I'd say you're a fool whether you dance or not. So you might as well dance.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you might as well. Like you're gonna make mistakes regardless, so why not make the ones that you wanna make?
Okay.
So I mean
Yeah.
it's easy for me to say.
Why not make okay, I like that. Why not you're gonna make a mistake regardless. So
yeah, you're gonna just commitments,
It's like your choice that you decide.
Well yeah, I mean you're left with like a lot of people are left with indecision.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like indecision's hard. Like I don't blame them for it. It's hard, right? You're stuck in indecision, but you just gotta choose.
Right.
You just have to. You don't have an option.
Yeah. Because you're gonna
you're gonna die one day.
Yeah.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
you're gonna die one day, and you just gotta like choose. You know, you just have to. You have to.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
There is no other.
There is no other option.
Like that, yeah. No, yeah. I messed
realistically.
I think the thing that just goes back to my own idea that like commitment to life is really the greatest gift, and commitment to life means commitment to everything involved in it.
Yeah.
And when you're not committed, you know, you're not really playing the game.
No, you're not.
Yeah. You're not playing the game.
You're sitting down on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's scary. It's not. It's always scary.
Yeah.
So you know.
But it's gonna happen. You know.
It's gonna happen.
It's gotta happen.
It's gonna happen.
Okay. All right. You got any last words you want to say?
No.
Should be good.
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, that was the first episode.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's
pretty
cool.
Deep. That was literally our first conversation.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, yo, we gotta say that. I had no idea. We gotta say that though, cause
I had no idea. Like, we haven't really talked about
anything really.
Any of these ideas, but like we just connected, huh?
Yeah. Dude.
I was like, we should have a conversation. I was feeling it too.
You were feeling it?
Like last night, I was feeling kind of like, I don't know, I was just feeling. I was like, okay, I'll call.
Gotta do it.
You know.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, that was completely like that just completely happened, huh?
Yeah.
We haven't had this like any type of conversation about
anything
spirituality
really.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a good one. I like that one.
That's cool. Yeah, I like to connect. I like to go deep with people. Because I will say that really my life has been mostly all about spirituality since like I was a freshman.
Right.
Yeah, like I was always into that stuff, and I felt weird about it.
Because, right. You felt like alone about it?
Yeah, I felt alone, and I felt like people thought I was weird if I mentioned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm spiritual. Like,
right.
Like, I want to talk about all these crazy things. You know what I mean?
Right. You just gotta talk about it.
Yeah, and
people will believe it too. You know, that's people.
Yeah.
Like you, it's contagious.
It is because they feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what's up with this guy?
Yeah, you're like, oh, he knows something.
He knows something, you know, he's acting like he doesn't.
Yeah. He's a little goofy.
Yeah. That's funny as fuck. Yeah.
It's interesting.
No, but I will say, I think it's good that we have these conversations because I want people to know that like they should do it.
They're okay.
They should do it. You know.
Well, you know, I think it's definitely very American to not have spirituality.
Yeah, it's a very taboo thing. I think.
Definitely.
Especially because of religion, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's like a charged topic.
It's I mean I always love talking about religion. Whoever it is, bro. Like if they don't believe, they do believe. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's cool knowing your relationship.
I think like you should talk about it. You know.
What it's done for you. You know.
Definitely.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, just for the record, we never talked really about had a conversation.
We just we never had a deep. We didn't even talk about talking about having a deep conversation.
We were just like, I got this podcast. With me.
I was like, yeah. I think it worked out.
Yeah, dude.
I think it worked out.
Yeah, so whoever's listening, you know, you gotta put yourself out there and then you'll be surprised with what you find. Yeah, dude, should be it, right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, stay lucid, and we'll see you guys on the next one.